Have any of us ever felt our hearts breaking when a text message went unanswered? Have you ever stayed up all night waiting for an apology that never came? In the world of clingy relationships, where you give all your love but only get silence and distance in return, there is a reality that few dare to admit. Sometimes you are the one who decides to leave. You are not weak when you leave. You are not a failure when you run out of patience. You are just brave enough to set boundaries for your heart. Imagine a moment. You stand in front of your morning cup of coffee, the sunlight streaming through the window, but inside you is only the darkness of loneliness. You realize that although you love deeply, you are gradually forgetting yourself, forgetting your own worth. Guilt rushes in, but the voice of reason whispers, "If at this moment you do not choose me, no one will do it for you." And oh, this video is for you, the one who loved too much and was exhausted, the one who believed that love could save everything. In the next 20 minutes, we will explore the real reasons why you left, contemplate the pain hidden in silence, and find the healing path to love yourself again, stronger, more peaceful, and more whole than ever before. In any anxious, avoidant relationship, the avoidant partner often fades away like a ghost from the other's emotional landscape, withdrawing bit by bit when love feels too intense, too overwhelming, too demanding. There is no shouting, no dramatic exit, just the quiet closing of doors on emotional presence. In stark contrast, the anxious partner, whose greatest fear is abandonment, reacts in the opposite manner. They text incessantly, meticulously inquire about every nuance in their partner's behavior, and endure to the point of exhaustion. With one hand, they try to connect. With the other, they desperately patch up the invisible void left behind whenever the avoidant withdraws from the heart. This striking contrast triggers a cascade of psychological consequences. Stonewalling, the freezing of communication, erodes the anxious partner's sense of safety so vital to secure attachment. Ghosting, the loving like a phantom, robs them of any tangible assurance of their partner's presence and leaves an unnamed void full of loneliness and confusion. These terms describe more than behaviors. They mark the pathway to deep emotional wounds. Trust is shaken, self-image distorted, and self-esteem gradually crumbles. The root of this pain does not lie merely in seen but unanswered messages or delayed replies, but in the self-sacrifice habit forged during childhood instability. The anxious partner grew up believing that pleasing authority figures ensured harmony, that being the good child meant not causing problems. Thus they learned that their worth hinged on making others happy. As adults entering romantic relationships, this belief mutates into relentless accommodation, endurance, and ultimately, self-erasure to prevent any rupture in the bond. Consequently, love ceases to be a mutual foundation where both individuals' emotional needs are honored. Instead, it becomes one-sided. One person endlessly gives love, time, effort, while the other only takes when it's convenient. To the anxious partner, any refusal of minimal emotional presence feels like an unforgivable crime, prompting haunting self-questions. Am I loving the wrong way? Am I being unreasonable? Am I not good enough to be loved? These questions not only torment long nights but build a wall of doubt and profound low self-esteem. From the secure attachment perspective, staying in such circumstances is not a noble act of sacrificial love. It is consenting to lose oneself. Every additional text, every leap over the fear of abandonment to seek answers, represents another concession to the relationship's imbalanced demands, allowing pain and insecurity to become the daily norm. When needs for care, empathy, and understanding are not met continuously and equitably, these should be clear signals for change, either transform the relationship or change oneself to find a new source of security. Yet fear often leads the anxious partner to silently endure until energy is entirely depleted, only realizing too late that silence cannot mask wounds. It deepens, widens, and becomes harder to heal. Thus, loving in silence within an anxious avoidant bond is not a divine harmony, but an endless struggle where one party bears invisible anxiety and the other abdicates responsibility. Recognizing this truth not only helps us identify the wounds but also illuminates the way forward. Understanding that maintaining one-sided love equates to abandoning oneself, and only by relinquishing silent suffering can we reclaim our voice, a voice that demands fairness, demands respect, and ultimately demands to be loved in the way we truly deserve. After the silent suffering and lingering doubts, we explored in part 1, where the anxious partner wrestles between the need for closeness and the fear of losing themselves. A pivotal turning point emerges, the moment when love stops being a haven and turns into an unbearable pressure. This is the battery-drained moment when you find yourself lying awake through sleepless nights, your mind racing, fingers mindlessly scrolling through unanswered messages, waiting for an apology that never materializes with any action. Each missed call, each seen notification without a reply, feels like a question you dread. If this continues, what will remain of me? In that profound stillness, you take a hard look at yourself and admit that you have given too much, clung too tightly, and allowed your sense of identity to dissolve. You realize that you are not walking away because you have stopped loving, but because you are protecting your intrinsic worth, a hallmark of secure attachment, as described by Hazan and Shaver, 1987. Your departure is quiet and dignified. No tears, no thrown objects, just the simple act of not stepping back through the old doorway, not returning to the familiar alley that once witnessed your promises. Your footsteps fade gently, like a breeze passing through someone's life, leaving enough space for both yourself and the avoidant partner to confront the void. When we dare to let go of relationships bound by fear, we open space for the heart to rest and recover. This powerful reminder comes from Chapter 4, Releasing Worry, in Tara Brach's Radical Acceptance, 2003, where she outlines the first 10 steps of the healing journey. Choosing yourself is more than just one of these 10 steps. It is a transformative act that places self-worth above the fear of abandonment, allowing genuine security to emerge instead of endless uncertainty. This act of leaving sparks a ripple effect. The anxious partner begins to establish healthy boundaries, no longer replying immediately to every message, no longer offering apologies when none have been offered in return. You grant yourself permission to pause, to maintain distance, and to observe your emotions without being swept away by the storm of obsessive love. Through this breakthrough, the crushing pressure eases, and you gain the momentum to move forward. Not responding instantly not only relieves stress, but also sends a clear message to the avoidant partner. I am no longer willing to endure this unilaterally. When the emotional support you once provided suddenly disappears, the avoidant must face the emptiness they created. For the first time after countless evasions, they enter the silent world they seeded themselves and perhaps ask, "Am I truly okay alone?" This ripple effect not only awakens the avoidant's capacity for self-healing, but also fortifies your inner strength, built on healthy boundaries, and the courage to let go of fear in pursuit of inner peace. You come to understand that boundaries are not walls that block love, but doors that lead to genuine connection and mutual respect. When love becomes pressure, walking away is the first step in creating a new space, a space where you can love and be loved as you deserve. So after decisively walking away from a relationship where love has become a burden, we enter a completely new phase where the light of self-protection briefly flashes, only to reveal the darkness of a false sense of happiness in the other person. This is when the avoidance pain is laid bare in all its depth. At first, when you fall silent and do not return, when you no longer cling to the hope of a phone call or an explanation, the avoidant feels a strange liberation from the emotional demands they never knew how to meet. Finally, I'm free, they tell themselves in that initial moment after you've left. A relief so profound it contrasts sharply with the deep attachment they always tried to avoid. They believe they have won a victory over the feeling of being tied down, over the pressure to show up, to speak, to love, in a way they cannot comprehend. But it's in the long, empty stretch that follows, when the noise of everyday life is quieted, that the avoidant realizes what they've truly lost. No more short morning chats, no more late-night messages, no more seen notifications followed by silence. Those odd anchors of emotional safety they once saw as burdens become the supports they cannot live without. And at that moment, loneliness piles high on memory. Why is there no one here with me? Why is nobody checking in on me? They feel, more tangibly than ever, the void they themselves created, that hollow space where someone should have been to lean on. The boundary you set becomes the final emotional mooring that makes them recognize how much time they spent just avoiding connection. When that boundary goes up, the avoidant is left reeling. They may choose to avoid even more, refusing to face the emptiness, and allowing that fear to sink deeper into the subconscious. Or, for the first time, they might question themselves, is something wrong with me? Do I deserve to be abandoned? That painful question, however, is the doorway to self-healing. For those avoidants brave enough to feel their pain, this silent shove does more than expose wounds, it thrusts them toward positive change. They might begin therapy, explore self-awareness through books, or simply start journaling daily to name their emotions. Many discover emotional labeling, a cornerstone of emotionally focused therapy, EFT, pioneered by Sue Johnson, 2004. This practice invites them to pause, listen, and assign names to inner states. This is sadness, this is anger, this is fear, rather than unconsciously denying or pushing them away. Gradually, they learn to welcome their feelings instead of fleeing from them. They come to see that avoidance is not a solution but only a temporary suppression that deepens the wound. Whether they sign up for a therapy session, pick up Susan Anderson's The Journey from Abandonment to Healing, or simply open a notebook and write a few lines, it's a clear sign. They understand your absence is not only the end of a cycle, but the start of their own healing journey. However tangled their emotions may be, anxious partners must remember one crucial truth. You are not responsible for healing them. Love's boundaries affirm that when you step back from unconditional comfort, the avoidant must bear their own pain. Setting that boundary isn't cruelty. It's self-protection against remaining trapped in a one-sided relationship. When you are no longer the inexhaustible source of consolation, the avoidant must supply their own or continue to avoid, and whatever path they choose, it's not your fault. That's why love's boundary is the most powerful tool in any relationship. You cannot forever shoulder the burden of someone else's healing, nor force them to open their hearts. That responsibility lies with them alone, and only they can decide to confront their core fears. When the avoidant finally recognizes that you are truly gone, that absence becomes an unignorable mirror, compelling them to face the avoidance patterns they've sown. Revealing the avoidance pain at this stage isn't about blaming or making them victims. It's about understanding the complex defense mechanisms within. They don't flee because they're heartless, but because they fear deeper hurt and never learn to endure emotional pain without running. By empathizing with their suffering, we build compassion and at the same time affirm our own boundary. Helping someone doesn't mean sacrificing ourselves, and there's nothing wrong with putting ourselves first. After witnessing the loneliness entwined with the avoidant's hidden fears, and understanding that the boundary you set was the cornerstone, forcing them to face themselves, we now turn toward the proactive path of building inner security, a transformation that not only heals old wounds, but also steels your heart against any future trials. The first and most fundamental step is to continuously ask yourself, what do I need right now? Rather than letting your emotions drift aimlessly. Take a few minutes each morning or evening to jot down 3 brief sentences in a journal. One about your current emotional state, one about your deepest need at that moment, and one affirmation of your self-worth. I deserve respect. I am strong enough to overcome this. I am on the path back to myself. This simple habit not only helps you catch warning signals such as anxiety, loneliness, or anger, but also nurtures the reflex to pause, rest, and self-care instead of plunging headlong into old relationships from a place of fear. Next, unlock mindfulness as your key to staying present. Just 5 minutes a day. Sit upright, close your eyes, and observe your breath in and out. Notice every point of contact between your body and the chair, every warm or cool sensation as air passes through your nostrils. According to Jon Kabat-Zinn, 1990, this practice not only reduces stress, but also soothes hyperactivity in the amygdala, where anxiety is born, and strengthens connections with the prefrontal cortex, enabling you to respond more calmly under pressure. Over time, mindfulness becomes second nature, allowing you to hold emotions at arm's length rather than getting lost in negative mental loop. In pursuing inner security, practicing healthy boundaries is crucial. One powerful rule is the 24-hour rule. When you receive a message that triggers pressure, resist the urge to reply immediately. Notice if you're swept up in negative emotions. If you still feel unsettled, put the phone down and say to yourself, I need time to calm down, then wait at least 24 hours before responding. This protects your peace of mind and sends a clear signal that you will not endure one-sided demands. At the same time, Practice declining without blame in your wording. Instead of, "I don't want to text you anymore," say gently, "I need some time for myself," or, "Right now, I need space to recharge." Such phrasing preserves respect for the other person while upholding your own self-respect. You decline because of your needs, not out of reproach. To deepen your self-healing, draw on principles from Tara Brach's Radical Acceptance, especially Chapter 7, Embracing Emotions. Brach recommends observing inner states: sadness, anger, fear like clouds drifting across the sky of your mind. Don't chase them, don't resist, just notice their passage. Whenever anxiety arises, you might whisper, "This is just a thought, not reality," creating distance between your observing self and the emotional cloud, thereby dissipating negative energy rather than trapping you in loops of self-doubt or shame. Finally, don't forget to seek external support no matter how strong you are. Community connection is vital for offloading mental stress. Find an online or in-person support group for people who've experienced relationship loss, where you can share your story, hear others' experiences, and learn how they overcame heartbreak. Science shows that sharing boosts oxytocin, the bonding and safety hormone, while lowering cortisol, the stress hormone, helping you feel warm and understood. This explains why even a brief conversation with someone in a similar boat can have surprising healing power. Once you've built inner security, established healthy boundaries, and maintained mindfulness alongside community support, the path to secure attachment is no longer a distant theory. You will realize that love isn't just intense emotions or constant closeness. It's a steady state where both partners grow together and take responsibility for their own feelings without coercion. Thus, after the period of self-inquiry, mindfulness practice, healthy boundary setting, and seeking support, we stand ready to enter the closing phase with renewed purpose and inner strength. Walking away is not a sign of no longer loving, but an assertion that you will no longer sacrifice yourself for a relationship drained of equality and respect. That act becomes your strongest declaration of your worth and your right to happiness. Your absence is not merely an ending. It is an undeniable mirror compelling your partner to confront how they avoided responsibility, taking your presence for granted as unconditional support. Yet you bear no blame if they choose to remain silent, ignoring the lesson found in the void they created. True healing begins the moment you choose yourself, a decision that may seem simple but holds the power to transform your entire life. The instant you declare inwardly, "I deserve respect," the instant you have the courage to pause in the face of one-sided demands and say enough to the fear of abandonment, you begin to cultivate inner security. To continue walking this path together, I invite you to hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because in the videos ahead, I will dive deeper into sustaining mindfulness practices, refining your boundary skills, and building a supportive community that helps you stand firm as someone with genuine, secure attachment. Remember the final message I want to leave you with. Allow yourself to be loved first, because only when you truly love yourself, honoring your own needs and emotions, can you give others love that springs not from fear, but from confidence and inner peace. And if you have ever summoned the courage to say enough to any relationship that failed to honor your worth, please leave a comment with "I choose myself," so we can amplify this powerful message and inspire those still struggling between the need to be loved and the fear of losing themselves. On this journey, every comment and every share testifies to the strength of a community walking together towards secure, lasting, and meaningful love. And that is the journey from silent endurance to liberated security, a roadmap that not only heals old wounds but also awakens the inner strength for you to step into the future with a steadfast heart. Always remember, walking away isn't because you stopped loving, but because you deserve respect and peace. The boundaries you set not only protect you but also serve as a mirror compelling others to face themselves. Your next step is to keep choosing yourself every day. Check in on your needs, practice mindfulness, uphold your boundaries, and seek community support whenever necessary. If this journey has touched your heart, don't hesitate to share your thoughts or ask questions in the comments below. We walk this path together, learning how to allow ourselves to be fully loved.